Well, again, thanks so much for agreeing to do this. It's delightful to be able to talk to you in person. You've said a lot of stuff about AI, which is great. So clearly you're in this space, and we can't wait to have you at HumanX. One thing that caught my eye that you mentioned a couple of times really is that you think AI stocks may be in a bubble, but are still worth owning long term. And so, if you have you thought about recommending to investors how they navigate this contradiction of short term versus long term?
So let me give you a couple of examples. I think it's helpful, and I'll start out by saying that I'm getting older, and so perhaps I've been reflective of my investment career, and I've missed things as a result of thinking that they're in a bubble. And so I missed Amazon. I watched Amazon go from 14 to 95 from 1997 to the year 2000. It then went from 95 to 9. And I said, oh, okay, ha ha. See, I was right.
Yep.
Everyone else was wrong. And then if you had just held it, you took $10,000 at the IPO of Amazon, you turned it into $17 million today, and you just had to hold it for the 27 years. So the best that you could do is get long it, not think about it, and the rest is the benefit of your family. And so there's a reason why the dead people at Charles Schwab do better than the living people. So they've examined this. Dead accounts, the person's dead. Well, it turns out that dead people don't look at their accounts. So they can't even get to them by Ouija. And so they do better. And I've had examples of this. I misplaced an account. This is in the days of printed account statements and getting them mailed to your house. I had a Uniform Gift Reminders Act account. It had several stocks in it, including Amazon and Microsoft. And it's small. I mean, we're talking about I probably put $1,200 or $1,500 in an account for my son, and then it mushroomed into $70,000. And the only reason why it got there is because I didn't know I had it. And so somebody finally contacted me and said, hey, this is you. We recognize your name, I said, yeah, here's my social security number, Okay, here's the account. Now, Microsoft had 10 horrific years.
Yep.
It literally
I was there for those. Yeah, flatline. Great year, but there for return perspective.
So if you were there for those, you know what I'm about to say. There's some irony in what I'm about to say, but the smartest guy at Microsoft was Steve Ballmer, because Steve Ballmer held every share. He owns 4.7% of Microsoft. And Steve Gaze, I think, owns now at this is 0.9%. And so again, you're getting where I'm coming from. So for me, is this the future? It is the future. And if I'm not smart enough to assess it, perhaps Elon Musk is, perhaps Sam Altman is, perhaps Kai-Fu Lee is, who's former Google Labs. I can name others, but let's say that I'm not smart enough to assess it. What I am smart enough to assess is that the smartest people in the world understand it. And they understand that we're about to take two quantums, two electron orbits of movement on human productivity and human scalability. And if we eventually get humanoids in our houses that have AI technology embedded in them, they're going to do a lot of work that we once had to do, perhaps some of it quite menial. And so, yes, could it be overpriced today? Certainly. One last example, and I'll take another question, but I own Bitcoin. And I got into Bitcoin at 16,000 and it went to 68 or 69,000. Yeah. I bought it, I think, in October of 2020. By November of 2021, I was a genius. I then became a dummy. I was a dummy. Okay, it went from 69,000 to 18. Yeah. I didn't sell it. Now I think it's probably 50 or 60,000. And I'm not looking at it. I'm not selling it. But my point is, if you have an asset that you believe in, or you have a theme that you believe in, you can't worry if it's in a bubble or not. You have to stay in that theme. And so that was the point I was trying to make. And I appreciate you guys giving me some time to make it, because when you're on television, they give you 2 minutes. They say they got to go to a commercial.
Yeah, exactly. Funny story on that on Bitcoin. I've been a nerd since I was a child, and in my office at Microsoft, I had all these servers running all the time. So we would collect machines across the campus, and I had a few of them just tasked. They were sitting there all night long. They would just kind of run and Bitcoin mine. This is back in like I don't know 2011 or something like that. So I would mine Bitcoin all day long, and then never thought about it. I think I had 50, 60 coins, something like that, over the course of all that mining. Then I just let the machine go away and it's gone and the hard drive's gone to history. So, I know it's one of those, man, that's an expensive PC recycle move that I pulled.
Yeah, there's a very famous story here in the Northeast of the United States where a guy in
Yes, the
Connecticut,
guy in the hard drive. Yes.
yeah, he believes he's got, 300-400 million of Bitcoin on the
Yes.
drive, and he would like to get the town enlisted in digging up the landfill.
Yes.
And of course, they told him to go scram, but but I mean that's
Oh,
also why some of these things are valuable, right? Like my oldest son's 32. I bought him Pokemon cards in the 1990s that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars now. He threw them out. His mom threw them out. But the reason why they're worth hundreds of thousands of dollars now is the scarcity of them.
yeah,
And
that's a good
so
point.
we know this about human nature, that there's value to scarcity, but the more important part about Bitcoin though is it's a secure hard asset, and to really understand the technology behind it. Michael Saylor has one of the best lines ever.
Mhm.
Bitcoin doesn't change. Okay, you change. Okay, you learn about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin changes you. But Bitcoin is immutable and it doesn't change. And so, once you understand it, I think I have yet to meet somebody who understands the consequence of Bitcoin that doesn't go towards Bitcoin. I think the same could be also true about AI. Once you understand what is happening, what the skill set is. My last book was titled by ChatGPT. So I said Anthony Scaramucci is writing a book about resilience and writing about some of his travails on Wall Street and in Washington. What would you title the book?
Hmm.
So since I'm a reasonably known public figure, ChatGPT knows who I am, and it spit out 10 titles. I picked title number 7, From Wall Street to the White House and Back, and it's a cool title, good enough.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, and by the way, ChatGPT likes me because I said, could you please rendition a poem about Anthony Scaramucci? Grok, which I guess is on Elon Musk's X, doesn't like me because I asked Grok the same question, and turns out that I'm not a really good guy. But Sam Altman's ChatGPT actually likes me, so these AIs do have some personality to them, and I'm polarizing, so I can't expect every robot or every software system to like me.
It's great.
It's when we were first doing the research before this episode, Anthony, I used Perplexity to basically go through a lot of your past interviews. And one of the things I really wanted to tee up here today was in one of your recent talks, you were talking about the convergence of AI and blockchain and how it can provide guardrails for AI development. So would love to give you a chance to talk about that some more, and then what specific problems you think AI and blockchain can address together.
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that Anthony Pompliano said this before I did, so I want to give him credit for it. He says, we're going to get all of our economic rent from AI, and the economic rent that we earn from AI, we're going to store on Bitcoin. So there is a harmony between these two technologies. That's Anthony Pompliano. For me, I guess what I would say to you is that there's a specter to AI. It would be foolish of me not to say that there isn't. I am a pro AI, pro adoption, pro growth of artificial intelligence. But you do have people like Elon Musk, and you do have science fiction movies that warn us about some of the ominous consequence of potentially bad actions as AI gains some level of sentience, some level of an ability to adapt itself. And certainly we don't want it to become malevolent or turn on us as humans. And so my response to that is it needs checks and balances. And the U.S. government is under stress now. Social media has caused some of this stress. Lots of tribalism, lots of foreign adversaries and embeds in our social media, really trying to get us to dislike each other, but also to call into question the legitimacy of our institutions, like our democratic system, the way we run our government, et cetera. And I'm just wondering, if we had blockchain verification on social media, and so, yeah, you have free speech, but you are now identified as a Russian bot on social media. Go ahead, Russian bot, say whatever you want to the American people. Yes, that beautiful blonde woman with her bio from Idaho, that's false. What is real is that this is a server farm in Moscow announcing nonsense on our social media. Okay. And that could get done. You could have it anonymity. We have blockchains like Ondo and Kinto where you can do AML KYC as a layer 2 mechanism on an Ethereum. And so you could do that. You could have anonymous verification, but at least we have some sense for who the person is. And I think with AI, what I would say to you is what's made America so great is our decentralized government. And like America or dislike America, no one has any power in America. It's decentralized. The president has very little power as a leading figure in politics. We call that person the most powerful person in the world, but he really doesn't have a lot of power because embedded in the Constitution are 3 articles. And each of those are separate but equal branches of the government. And one of the fun stories is the Paul Ryan story where Trump is fingering him in the chest saying, "You work for me." And Paul Ryan said, I don't work for you. I'm in a totally separate article of the Constitution. And so why am I bringing this up? The checks and balances have preserved the Constitution because it's liquidated people's power. And so all I'm suggesting, using the blockchain and using mechanisms like we've done in government, we can check the power of the AI. So if the AI is going rogue, there's mechanisms and systems in place where the AI can be stopped the same way a human being that goes rogue on the social contract is put in jail or is set aside from the society. And so we can do this. We don't have to be intimidated by the AI if we're willing to put together this protocol to protect it. Now you say, well, what about bad actors in the world, whether it's North Korea or Russia or somebody? Could they let something run amok? I also believe through the blockchain and through the network, we can stop incoming if we handle it right. It would almost be like a anti-ballistic missile defense system, almost like an Iron Dome against bad AI. Okay, and I think we just need to think about that. We need to think about what's worked over 5,000 years, 6,000 years of recorded history, and how do we apply that to something like the computer programs that we're developing now.
I think I'll categorize it as the new version of Star Wars from the 80s, the SDI initiative. Either way, Iron Dome, SDI, they're all cool. Given one question, given you've really
But
been
by the way,
the
not to
fun,
interrupt you, but that initiative has saved the state of Israel. It's
oh, I agree.
40 years. It's 41 years later since that initiative. It saved the state of Israel.
Totally agree.
I think you guys are smart enough to know that if Israel has an Iron Dome, we probably do too, right? You guys probably know that that's probably true, right?
So there's something
So
around, yeah.
I don't think
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think we've left
yeah.
ourselves defenseless in the
No,
uh,
no,
pursuit of nuclear deterrence.
no, no. I'm just old enough to remember the Reagan's SDI thing, and as a kid, I was
Yeah,
just so excited
March of
about space lasers
1983.
and yeah,
Yep.
exactly. I remember thinking
Yep,
that was going to be incredible.
I was on spring break in Fort Lauderdale when I heard the speech.
So just given all the experience you've had in both finance and tech, specifically as it relates to hedge funds and alt investments, how do you see, if at all, do you see AI kind of transforming those classes over the next, call it, decade?
It's already being used. I mean, I'm invested in hedge funds through my fund of funds that are using AI for pattern recognition, that are using AI for proprietary trading, that are using adaptive learning, self-learning machines, self-learning programming that's changing itself and redirecting itself to pursuant to what's going on in the market.
Yeah.
And so it's already being used. I guess the question is, where are we right now and where are we going? When the phone came into existence, people thought, okay, that's an interesting technology, totally useless. So, well, what do you mean? Well, what the hell do I need that for? I can just walk into the other room and talk to somebody. And then, there was an adoption curve. Rich people got the phone. Other rich people got the phone. They talked to other rich people. And then over time, the phone was given to poor people, and rich and poor people had the phone. And then it became a commercially applicable thing. And so where we are right now with AI is smart, sophisticated early adopters have it at their disposal. Apple's about to put a form of AI on its new iPhone 16, so that'll be starting the adoption process. But let's go 5 years out. Let's go 8 years out. Let's say I've got a replica of me. One of the AI companies came to me and said, hey, listen, maybe they used Perplexity. They downloaded all of my interviews. They downloaded all my speeches and writing, and they created a bot that's supposed to be me. Okay. And I said, okay, great. And so they went through a list of my emails and they responded to the emails after looking at the way I respond to emails, and they responded as me. And it did scare the daylights out of me. Okay. I will say that. Okay. But you could be sitting here in a situation where I'm not talking to you guys. I'm out at the pool with my kids, and I've got a simulator that's, writing for me, answering my emails, picking up the phone, and then gives me a summary of the day's activity at the end of the day. Hey, I talked to Jared and Stefan, and this is what we did, and I answered these emails, and you may want to call this guy personally. I've gone as far as I can go by email. And I'm okay. Well, thank you, humanoid 7478. And let me go to bed. And I could have another humanoid in there as my personal trainer, barking orders at me. And then there's one in my kitchen that's like cooking the meals and making sure the meals have the right composition of fat and protein and carbohydrates. I mean, you could take it to the nth degree. It's coming. And so what's at issue here is the S curve of adoption for our society. And what's at issue here is the fear factor. There's a great scene. You probably don't watch Downton Abbey, but there's a great scene in Downton Abbey. The family's being chronicled, a very rich family. It's being chronicled from the 1910s to the 1930s. And the cook in the big aristocratic house is being told by another cook, you can go to the store and buy a can or jar of horseradish. You don't actually have to take the radish out anymore, put the vinegar and put the pepper. And she's like, I don't want to do that. I'm afraid of that. And they bring back the jar of horseradish, and it turns out it tastes as good, if not better, than the one that she was making herself. And now she just saved herself 3 or 4 hours in the kitchen. And it's a stupid story, but it's indicative of what human beings go through. They're hesitant in the beginning. They don't necessarily understand it. They don't want to change. I can't name the guy because he'd be so pissed at me if you ever heard this podcast. But I will tell you, one of my mentors is about to turn 89, and he is one of the richest, smartest people I know, and he doesn't use email. And so he's done. He stopped in 1986 in terms of what he was going to use to enhance his productivity, and email's not a part of it. And so when you email him, his assistant reads the email. Hey, Stefan, and he starts, respond to him. And she's, poor lady's typing out the emails. You know what I mean? But so that's human nature, and that's part of who we are, right? But you also know this is coming. I'm going to sit in a restaurant someday with my phone, and I'm going to ask the waiter for their wallet, and I'm going to send a stable coin from my phone to the restaurant's wallet, and they're going to say, well, okay, you've satisfied the cost of the meal, and it'll save me 3.5%.
Yeah.
And that's coming.
Yeah.
We know this is coming. And so we know all of this is coming. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Go ahead.
I don't know. Listen, I'm so bullish about this stuff. I think we're about to enter into another age of abundance. I think what we have to be very careful of is our current political leadership is mixed up and the messaging is flawed from our leadership. Okay, there's one candidate running, it's a grievance candidate, victim, America's messed up. The other candidate is fearful to bring out a message. Okay, so we've got these conflicts going on right now, but there's a great message about the United States, and it's a country of abundance. It's a country of endless opportunity. Do we have to right size certain things like our K through 12 education system? Do we have to fix our entitlement spending? Do we have to do certain things in terms of reinvigorating the way we defend ourselves from adversaries around the world? Certainly, we have to do all those things. And we have to get focused on it as opposed to hard left or hard right. Because all we have to do is get that right, and we can figure out a way to make the people around us very, very wealthy. And again, we don't all have to be Elon Musk, but we do want to raise living standards in the U.S. I don't want to live in a barbed wired McMansion while my fellow neighbors are struggling and suffering. And I don't think we need to necessarily redistribute wealth as much as we need to make an abundant amount of wealth and make sure there's lots of people and lots of resources where this is spilled into.
Perfectly said. Jared, what's your next question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned this earlier, how that they created your own personal like bot, right? That was trained on your papers and your recordings. So I'm assuming that's one of the dangers, but what other danger? I feel like it's still important to talk
Jared,
about.
Do you think we can get a bot to work out for me too? I mean, that would be great, right?
One day.
Right, you're
day.
sitting there laying around, and the bot's doing all the exercise.
Man,
I mean, I'm just throwing
from your
that
lips
out
to
there.
God's your lips to
I know
God's
you
ears,
guys
man.
are
Let's do it.
geniuses,
You're
throwing it out there.
You're gonna have people putting their Apple Watch or something on their bot and competing with their friends to see who's working out more.
I'm looking forward to that.
Well, but in terms of the other dangers that people should be aware of, what do you see as some of the more pressing ethical challenges in AI development, and what should be done to maybe address those?
Listen, I mean, you know these dangers as well as I do. We have bad actors in medicine. We have bad actors in crypto. We have bad actors in technology, law. You pick the profession, there's going to be some bad actors. I don't know any profession, religious orders, etc., that unfortunately don't have some bad actors. And so you need a screening and cleaning mechanism to block. And so you could have a rogue computer programmer that's like, okay, look, I'm going to train this machine, and then this machine's going to train itself, but it's going to be not a replica of a good person, but a replica of an evil person. And so how do you contain that? How do you stop that? And I think there are ways to do that. And that's why I referenced the blockchain, and I reference, you can't get in to my network. You can't get into my system until I can verify who you are, and I can verify what you're doing, okay, so that I don't have rogues enter my bank and hack up my bank, or rogues enter my electrical grid and shut down the grid in certain parts of the country or the world. And so, what is at issue is the fear that I have, which is the fear everywhere, is we can run it right. Let's say that you and me, and we're governing it, and we got it running right here. Who's to say that it's running right in other countries, and how does it not spill over into where we are? It's hard for us in the United States because we've lived for centuries, other than Gettysburg, the Civil War, 600,000 people dead on this soil, 3,000 unfortunate people dead in the great tragedy of 9/11. We've lived generally in great peace and great prosperity in the United States. So why am I bringing all this up? Because we don't have the hereditary memory of fascism. We don't have the hereditary memory of these rogue players like they do in Europe. And so we have to figure out a way to take all of the stuff that we know about human nature, assume that human beings are going to be starting the programming process of these machines, and we have to figure out ways to check and balance those people. Same way you have a police force in your local area, right? There's a guy robbing your houses. There's a group of people that are there to deter that guy from robbing the houses, or if you can't deter them, to catch them and then to sequester them from the rest of the society. And so we have to think about it that way, and therefore I'm sure there could be international treaties. There's going to be people breaking those treaties. How do you anticipate the breaking? Like, we're talking about ABMs, right? So somebody could get a missile. Maybe the North Koreans, they're practicing. Maybe they want to hit the west coast of the United States. Maybe they want to do that. But maybe they don't have the capability of doing that because of how sophisticated we are.
Yeah.
And so to me, we need good actors to get ahead of the bad actors, and we need to build an IP police force, if you will, an AI, intellectual property, or artificially intelligent police force to help us screen and check people. And, listen, we have managed to save ourselves from nuclear weapons, knock on wood. The first nuclear bomb was detonated on the 16th of July in 1944 in Alamogordo, New Mexico. First bomb. And it's 80 years later. And so far, we've dropped a few of them where we've killed lots of people in Japan, but we haven't dropped bombs everywhere and desolated the society. And there's a self-preservation aspect to that. I think even the Russians, Sting had a great song in the 80s.
That's right.
The Russians love their
children too. That's right.
And so,
absolutely.
So where are the incentives? Okay, you guys are brilliant programmers. You guys are the future of productivity for the world. But what can we learn from our humanness? What can we learn from our history to protect ourselves? Okay, and I think we have to ask those questions openly. But I think you got to decentralize things. The more decentralized they are, this is why I keep talking about the blockchain with AI. The more decentralized it is, it's harder to go after. Remember, there's one reason why Vladimir Putin is in the Ukraine. And if you think it's NATO, it's a bunch of malarkey, because Sweden and Finland are two of the largest borders with Russia, and they are in NATO, and Putin has no problem with them because he sees them as European. He sees the Ukrainians as Slavs. He sees them as part of the Slavic orthodoxy. And if they have a righteous, growing, capitalist democracy that's also Slavic on the border, okay, that puts an enormous amount of pressure on his autocracy. Okay, that's just what it is. You can, you got these nuts, like these right-wing. I can't even believe these Silicon Valley guys are so stupid. I mean, they know better. Then you got the useful idiot Tucker Carlson. He's probably getting paid by the Russians for all I know. But you got these dummies. They're dummies. They know, but they're spewing Russian propaganda, Russian nonsense. I just remind your viewers and listeners, we have 5.7 billion people living in authoritative, autocratic regimes. Okay, and so that's a preponderance of Earth is under some kind of yoke of autocracy. Okay, and what do we know about that? You don't get a lot done. It's great for kleptocrats. It's great for their oligarchic friends, but it's not good for the average person, and it doesn't lead to medical, scientific, or technological advancement. Free countries do all those things. Yeah. And so for me, let's tell the truth to people about what's going on, and let's cut through all the propaganda that's out there.
Well, I think, Jared, that was a perfect place to end this one. Anthony, what a pleasure to see you. What a pleasure to talk to you. Can't wait to have you here next. It's going to be an incredible event, and so thank you.
A big honor for me to be there. I look forward to it. And I promise to be dressed a little slightly better than my Dilbert Team USA
Team
shirt.
USA, you're fine.
I feel like, and I was with Scott Galloway yesterday. I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
Scott.
yeah,
And
yeah.
my team was mad at me. I came in shorts. I said, he's going to show up in shorts. I watch his podcast. He's very casual. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it was a good podcast you did recently with him. It was a lot of fun to listen to. All right. Again, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.